So AMD pretty much saved the day with earnings. We can see the stock is up over 7.6% after hours, sitting at roughly $149. In my opinion, the upcoming hours and leading to tomorrow, we're going to start to see analysts come out and increase their price target for AMD. But on today's episode, what I want to do is take a closer look at their earnings, see what they said about AI, about GPUs, about CPUs, and some of their other core markets. So this is going to be an AMD earnings episode, and let's get started.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so the first thing we're going to take a closer look at is their AI GPU side. This is the MI300. And Lisa Su kind of started that, hey, look, they continue to see acceleration on AI traction as leading cloud and enterprise providers expand availability of Instinct MI300x solutions. And they also saw positive demand signals for general purpose compute in both their client and server processor business. So overall, this kind of introduction gave us a nice understanding that most of AMD's businesses are doing pretty good. A few things that they mention is data center products now account for nearly 50% of overall sales in quarter four. The data center segment revenue increased 115% year over year to a record of $2.8 billion, driven by steep ramp of Instinct MI300 GPU shipments and strong double-digit percentage increase in EPYC CPU sales. So I talked about AMD, I want to say 2 days ago, and I mentioned their two core products are going to be mainly in the data center side, their CPU business and their GPU business, and we can see both are doing pretty well. When looking ahead into the AI market, Lisa Su and AMD pretty much tells us that the rapid advances in generative AI and development of more capable models are driving demand for more compute across all markets. So we are hearing from AMD that, hey, look, the AI market is still pretty real right now. The AI space is developing at such a rapid pace that we need compute capacity all over in different industries, from being advertisement, from being healthcare, from being so the company is going to continue to focus on hardware, software, and kind of just continuing to deliver this annual cadence on data center GPUs. So if you might have missed my previous episodes of AMD during Computex announced that they were accelerating and expanding their Instinct roadmap to deliver form of an annual cadence of AI accelerators. So this means that every single year, AMD is going to release a new AI chip. Later this year, they're going to release the MI325X. AMD did mention that the MI325X won't really have much revenue contribution this year, as usually when things start to ramp up, it's very low in volume in forms of revenue, but that should expect to grow through 2025. The great thing is this is going to be in the same infrastructure as the MI300, so people will be able to just plug and play. After that, later next year, we're going to see the MI350X, which is going to be based on their new CDNA4 architecture. Very similar. This is also going to be in the same kind of infrastructure as the MI300 and the MI350X. The great thing about this is, right, it's let's say you're a customer of the MI300, you're going to be able to buy the MI350 and upgrade pretty easily. In 2026, they're going to release the MI400. Due to all this kind of annual cadence and the strong demand that they are seeing, they did increase their data center GPU revenue to $4.5 billion in 2024, up from $4 billion that they guided in April. And I'm going to say I would expect for the upcoming quarters that we are going to continue to see this revenue growth as this company sees more and more supply chain easing up. So I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of this year, AMD kind of guides us or tells us that it was actually going to be closer to $5.5 or $6 billion. They mentioned that the MI300 revenue will continue to ramp in the third quarter and fourth quarter, as not only are they seeing expansion from current deployments, so they're sending more shipments to their current customers, but they're also seeing new customers kind of get familiar with their architecture, with their software and all that stuff, which will also drive more revenue growth. Some things to do know is they feel pretty comfortable about their roadmap, and on AMD's eyes, the MI325 and next year's MI350 will be very competitive with the Blackwell solution. You guys know how bullish I am with Nvidia, but something to kind of think about. Overall, they do mention that the market continues to need more compute, and they also feel very good that their hardware and software solutions are getting good traction, and they're continuing to expand that pipeline. So overall, in forms of AI market, what we heard from AMD is pretty much, hey, look, demand is off the roof. We're going to try to supply as much as possible. We're focusing on developing a chip on a yearly basis because that's what the market wants right now. So overall, I want to say a very, very bullish tone for AMD. And in my opinion, one of the main reasons the stock price is up, maybe some investors were worried that maybe they weren't going to see growth in AI chips or in some of the other markets. But what we're seeing is that, yes, AI is real. But before we go anywhere, if you want to learn more about the semiconductor market, I have two awesome semiconductor books. The first is kind of like an encyclopedia of public semiconductor companies. The second is earnings insight of this current earnings that we're in right now. The great thing is both are living documents. So if you purchase now, whenever I update the book with new companies and new earnings, you will also get an updated version. I do have a sale right now. If you purchase both books, you do get $20 off at checkout automatically, no code needed. Thank you for the support. And if you want to learn about the semiconductor market, I believe this will provide you with a lot of information. Check out moresemiinvesting.com, or you can see the product down here on my YouTube page as well. Now, if we take a closer look at their kind of core product, which is their server CPU, they mentioned that they continue to see strong adoption of their 4th generation EPYC CPUs, which is pretty good. And they are seeing hyperscalers select EPYC processors to power a larger portion of their applications and workloads. And some of you might be wondering, Jose, what does that mean? So let's say you are a company like Amazon or Google or Microsoft, and you have clouding solutions. Usually you split up between certain CPU players like Intel and AMD. Maybe back then it was, these are just numbers I'm making up, 90% Intel CPUs, 10% AMD CPUs. Now that is shifting, and you're kind of seeing an increase in larger portions of applications being used on EPYC processors. The other thing that AMD mentioned in forms of their server CPU is the enterprise size. This is individual business, and this is a market that AMD has been very weak on before, and this is where they're seeing. So sell-through increased by strong double digits percentage sequentially, and they closed multiple large wins in the quarter with financial services, technology, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, and transportation companies including Adobe, Boeing, Industrial Light and Magic, Siemens, and more. What's super important is 1/3 of their enterprise server wins in the first half of the year were businesses deploying EPYC in their data center for the first time. So we can see how AMD is grabbing market share here in the enterprise side, which I believe is another reason why the stock is up. Now, looking ahead, AMD is releasing their next version of their server CPU, the 5th generation, which is going to be the Turin family, and they are already kind of getting excited about this. They publicly previewed it the first time in June, and they demonstrated strong performance over some of their competitors and even their previous generation. They also passed a major milestone in the second quarter as they started Turin production shipments to lead cloud customers. Production is ramping now ahead of launch, and they expect broad OEMs and cloud availability later this year. So not only are they winning in their Gen 4, but they are releasing their Gen 5, which seems to be a little bit ahead of schedule, which is again bullish for their core product, the CPU server side. Now, they've mentioned that there's a lot of positives happening in the server CPU side. First off is the market is improving. Previously it was a little bit weak as we kind of had this AI optimization, but spending is returning both on enterprise and cloud, which in my opinion is very bullish. And so they think that the market continues to grow, and as they're launching their next product, it's going to be a great year for AMD in forms of their server CPUs. Now, some quick talk about their client CPU. These are the CPUs that go on your laptops, on your PCs. Revenue was $1.5 billion. up 49% year over year, driven by strong shipments in their Ryzen processor and their next generation Zen 5 processors as well. So right now, what's happening in the PC space is we're seeing PC shipments pick back up from very, very low levels, which is very bullish for their client CPU market. Now, unfortunately, their gaming market, which is pretty much sales that happen on the PlayStation 5, on the Xbox, was down 59% year over year, mainly because we are already in the fifth year of the console cycle. So this is very typical here. Their gaming graphics revenue did increase though, because again, their Radeon gaming GPUs did sell and improve in the channels. But I want to say the gaming market is going to be very weak in my opinion until we really see the next generation of the console cycle. And I don't think we're going to see that anytime soon. Now, one thing that was very, very positive in my opinion was their embedded market. This is thanks to their Xilinx acquisition. While revenue was down 41% year over year, it was flat quarter over quarter. So we're kind of ending on this bottom of the embedded market, and they believe that the second half they are seeing improvements already, that they expect revenue to gradually recover in the second half of the year. The embedded market is a huge cash flow machine for AMD. So if we see that market grow quickly, I think we're going to become very happy as AMD investors. Now, some important financial numbers to take note of. Gross margins was 53%, up 340 basis points year over year. Main reason is higher data center revenue, which tends to have a nice margin. Next, free cash flow for this quarter was $439 million. Some great numbers there. At the end of the quarter, they had roughly $5.3 billion in cash and short-term investments. They returned roughly $352 million to shareholders. They repurchased 2.3 million shares, and they still have roughly 5.2 billion of authorization remaining for buybacks. I'm gonna guess AMD did purchase a little bit more shares here in quarter three as they got to these low levels. They also kind of retired $750 million in debt with cash at hand. Now, for the quarter of 2024, they expect revenue to be roughly 6.7 plus or minus 300 million. So on the upside, roughly $7 billion. Main reason they expect revenue to grow approximately 15% sequentially, driven by strong growth in data center and client segment. They expect embedded segment revenue to be up and the gaming segment to decline by double-digit percentage. On a year-over-year basis, they do expect revenue growth of 16%, driven pretty much by their AMD Instinct processors and stronger server and client revenue growth to more than offset the declines in gaming and embedded. So AMD is now back in full growth mode, in my opinion. We're going to continue to see this, especially as we kind of get that increasement in the AMD Instinct or the MI300. Now, there was a question from AMD during the Q&A session, which kind of talked about CapEx. And hey, look, we are having this big worries of AI and CapEx. What do you see about this, Lisa Su? And Lisa Su pretty much mentions that right now they think that the overview on AI investment is that you have to invest. I mean, industries has to invest. The potential of AI is so large to impact the way enterprises operate and all the stuff. So they think investment cycle will continue to be strong. And they also kind of ask, hey, are people going to go more with your competitors, with you, or go with an ASIC solution? And Lisa Su pretty much mentions that she's a firm believer that there will be multiple ways for the market. Everybody's going to be buying competitors, everybody's going to be making ASIC, and everybody's going to be buying from them. But at the end of the day, the opportunity is so large and they think that their piece is very strong. So in my opinion, the market is so big right now that everybody is going to win. And that's pretty much what Lisa Su is saying. Now, one of the things impacting them is the supply chain for their MI300. They did ramp up significant, exceeding their supply by 1 billion in the quarter. But unfortunately, they mentioned supply chain is tight and it will remain tight through 2025. So we can continue to see that demand is still so much higher than supply. Even AMD, the number 2, has said so. And obviously this bodes well, really good for a company like Nvidia. So my overall thoughts on AMD, I still believe at 150 or below, this is a very strong company. I think this is one that in the next few quarters, in the next few days, is going to get a nice amount of analyst price targets. Obviously, prices can go any way, but in my opinion, at these levels, AMD is going to be one of those in a few months from now, even by the end of the year, many people are going to be like, wow, I can't believe we were able to purchase AMD at the $138 level. So those are just my overall thoughts. Very bullish at the company, especially at these prices, even after our prices as well. In my opinion, at 150, this is fairly valued. That's what the market believes as well. But I believe we're going to see some positive actions in the upcoming quarters as well, as we have a lot of tailwinds for AMD. So great win for AMD, and I'm super excited about what this also means for a company like Nvidia. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.